the 12th Malice. These are 12 in number, but besides these, there are many others, my son. They compel the inner man who dwells in the prison of his body to suffer through his senses. These tormentors depart one by one from the man who receives God's mercy. This constitutes the manner and teaching of rebirth. The 12 dark powers correspond to the 12 signs of the zodiac. The combination of emotions that pertains to us depends on the placement of the constellations at the specific moment of birth. This can be described very precisely by looking where the stars and heavenly bodies are at that moment, which functions like a cosmic clock. When the time is right and the stars are aligned, the soul descends into the body. At this very moment, our body and soul are invaded and possessed by these dark entities, and for most of us, they remain with us for the rest of our lives. They make up our passions, the destructive emotions that dominate us in all kinds of ways, constituting the whole constellation of our personality. We suffer not because of our body, but because of the passions in our body. In order to attain gnosis, the dark powers must be expelled. There's a constant battle between light and dark within us. Hermes invokes 10 powers of light into the body of Tad, which expel or exorcise the 12 powers of darkness in his body. After joy, the power I summon is self-control, most welcome power. Let us most gladly receive her too, my son. On her arrival, see how she drives off intemperance. Now I call the 4th, steadfastness, a power opposed to lust. This next step, O son, is the seat of justice. See how without trial she has chased out injustice. With injustice gone, we become just. I summon the 6th power, generosity, opposed to greed. With greed gone, I next summon truth. Deceit flees, and truth is present. See how upon the arrival of truth, the supreme good arises. Envy has fled far from us. The supreme good, together with life and light, has followed upon truth, and the torments of darkness no longer fall upon us, but conquer. They all fly off with a rush of wings. These first 7 powers, which correspond to the 7 planetary spheres, overcome the powers of darkness one by one, and the next 3 powers, life, the octoad, or realm of souls, light, the ennead, or nous, and the supreme good, the souls, which in total make up 10 divine powers, drive out the remaining 5, so that all 12 tormentors of darkness fly off. After some time, Ted experiences an altered state of consciousness, a state of mania or divine madness, which corresponds to a higher state of knowledge. Ted then speaks. O Father, I have been made steadfast through God. I now see not with the eyes, but by the operation of spiritual energy and the powers. I am in heaven, in earth, in water, in air. I am in living creatures and in plants. I am in the womb, before the womb, after the womb. I am present everywhere. O Father, I see thee all, and I see myself in news. Ted is no longer troubled by these dark forces, but blessed by noetic powers of light. Our task is to overpower the dark entities with light, so that they fly off with a rush of wings by their own accord. We see that Tad has experienced a spiritual rebirth, gaining cosmic consciousness. He conceives himself to be in all places at the same time, in earth, in the sea, in heaven, before birth, within the womb, young, old, dead, beyond death. By conceiving all things at once, times, places, actions, qualities, and quantities, one can understand God. This method is called becoming the ion. It was the Stoics that developed the concept of the sympathy of all things, which denotes the living, indivisible coherence of the cosmos. This was adopted by Hermeticism and Middle Platonism. Ted recites a secret hymn in praise of God, the hymn of spiritual rebirth. However, while Ted has cosmic consciousness, he has not yet seen the spheres beyond the cosmos, as Hermes has. This leads us to the famous writing found in Nag Hammadi, the discourse on the octoad and ennead. whereas Book 13 of the Corpus describes the rebirth of the pupil. In this discourse, the pupil has already been reborn, showing us the initiate's progress towards the Hermetic mysteries. Here we find a striking altered state of consciousness induced by a strange magical incantation of vowels. When the priests of Egypt sang their hymns to praise their gods, they uttered the 7 Greek vowels in the prescribed order. The sound of these 7 vowels was so beautiful that people preferred this music to the flute or lyre. The 7 vowels correspond to the 7 notes of the octave, which are related to the 7 planets. The esoteric songbook of the Hermetic community in Alexandria plays a central role at the moments of awakening described in the Hermetica. Hermes reminds Ted of the progress he has made thanks to the books, which although belong to a lower stage in the progress towards gnosis, are nevertheless necessary. But they do not suffice, because discursive language simply does not get as far as the truth. Hermes and Ted, along with several brethren, all of which have been reborn, enter a deep meditative state. Hermes begins by calling attention to God's supreme divine attributes, including the fact that he's named only in silence. The prayer contains a string of mysterious words and vowels that represent God's secret name. A single voice sings the tone, which is answered by the choir, until all vowels are sung. The chanting gets more and more intense, and with every vowel, the consciousness of the pupil rises up through the planetary spheres until he's at the top, in the highest level, and goes beyond the cosmos, experiencing the 8th and the 9th, and finally the 1, where he sees a fountain bubbling with life. The pupil experiences a moment of fear, and Hermes tells him to bring his focus back to the hymn. The final stage of the ascent must be mastered by the pupil alone. Verbal instruction is useless. Hermes' words, who have guided the pupil, are no longer of any use. The pupil expresses himself by means of silent hymns that are heard and understood only by an interior faculty of perception. In fact, the most fundamental statement of the pupil is that what he's seeing cannot be put into words. The initiation has been completed. The pupil has now found peace and wants to thank God for having granted him the supreme vision he had been for. A distinction is implied between the silent hymn of contemplation that was sung during the ecstatic state of the 8th and 9th, and verbal hymns that may be addressed to God afterwards as signs of gratitude. Hermes instructs his son to write everything down in hieroglyphs and place them in his sanctuary at the right astrological moment, and protect the book with an apotropaic formula designed to avert evil, so that future generations will be able to read it. Presumably, then, it is the very text we've been analyzing. Thoth's invention of writing allowed us not to forget what we have experienced, enabling us to transmit knowledge over time and share it with future generations. However, this is a drug, or as the Greeks call it, Famicom. Writing is healing as it provides knowledge, but also poisonous, insofar as one will forget about direct experience, which is inexpressible. People will be reading books believing they have access to knowledge, but this is an illusion. Therefore, writing is in many ways poisonous. However, Thoth had a secret, which is that writing itself can have a magical effect on consciousness. Even though language cannot express the ineffable, it can resonate and have an effect on the human mind, which helps people find their own path towards gnosis. In fact, in Book 16 of the Corpus, Asclepius speaks to King Ammon about the dangers of language obscuring the true intent of these writings, which are spiritual, not philosophical. He, Hermes, said that they will become even more obscure later when the Greeks decide to translate our language into theirs, which will lead to even greater distortion and obscurity. When expressed in its original language, the text preserves the pure spirit of the words, for the very quality of the sound and the pronunciation of the Egyptian language carries in itself the power of what is being spoken. The Greeks, O king, use empty words which produce mere displays. That is the philosophy of the Greeks, a noise of words. We do not use such language, but sounds full of power. God has endowed man beyond all mortal creatures with these two gifts, nous and speech, both as much valued as immortality. If he uses these gifts rightly, he'll be no different from the immortals, and on departing from the body, he'll be guided by both to the realm of the gods and the blessed ones. In the corpus, we find that the idea of death does not exist. It is an illusion. In reality, there's only creation and transformation. Nothing perishes. Just like energy cannot be created nor destroyed, but only transformed from one form to another. Man is a microcosm that reflects the macrocosm, as above, so below. When the body is dissolved, it is absorbed back into nature, and the soul is absorbed in the cosmos, returning into the unmanifest, so that new creatures may come to be. The cosmos is never destroyed, the cycles are a continual rotation, and the mystery is the renewal. The true nature of reality is not mortality, but immortality. Hermes tells his son, "Have you not heard in the general teaching that all the souls which wander around the whole cosmos as if separate are from a single soul, the soul of all? Indeed, there are many transformations of these souls, some more fortunate, others less. Those which are reptiles are changed into aquatic creatures into those of the earth into fowls of the airborne into man. The human souls which gain immortality are transformed into spirits, and thence to the choruses of the gods." When one dies with an affliction of the soul, one cannot partake of the supreme good. This is the only real death, a spiritual death of cyclical rebirth. The soul turns back on its journey to the reptiles, and that is the condemnation of the evil soul. Reptiles are considered lowly chthonic creatures. In the Bible, the snake is condemned by God for tricking Adam and Eve into eating the forbidden fruit from the tree of knowledge, and it must crawl on its belly and eat dust all the days of its life. We think we are alive. The reality is that we are dead, and when we die, we become alive. That is, if we become united with God by leading a life of reverence. For the Hermeticist, man is a divine being, and is not to be counted amongst the other creatures, and not even among those in heaven, called gods. For man exists at once in earth, in the sea, and in heaven. Indeed, if we have to speak the truth boldly, the true man is above the gods, or at least fully their equal in power. Not one of the heavenly gods will leave the boundaries of heaven and come down to earth, but man ascends to heaven and measures it, and he knows the high from the low, and he understands all the other things there exactly. And even more amazing, he ascends while not leaving the earth. So great is his range. Thus, one may say that man on earth is a mortal god, and that the heavenly God is an immortal man. Therefore everything is controlled by these two, man and the cosmos, but all is from the one. The evil soul then is ignorance of God, for the soul, knowing nothing of the supreme good, is blind and shakes with bodily pains, tormented by darkness. If we do not make ourselves equal to God, we cannot understand Him. Like is understood by like. Allow yourself to grow larger until you are equal to Him who is immeasurable. Outleap all that is corporeal, transcend all time, and become the ion. Then you will understand God. God does not ignore man, He knows him fully, as God also wishes to be known. This is the only salvation for man, knowledge of God. This is the ascent to the highest abode of the gods. We can choose between mortality or immortality. It is the inferior choice that destroys man. Those who have a mixture of rage and lust do not value things worthy of their attention, but turn to the pleasures and appetites of the body, believing that man was born for that reason, or mistake these greatest evils as the greatest goods. There are two kinds of beings, the embodied and unembodied, in whom there is the mortal and the divine spirit. Man is left to choose one or the other, if he so wishes, for one cannot choose both at once. When one is diminished, it reveals the power of the other.